Hello everyone. This is Uncle John. I'm going to read S3 3228, the story of the toilet, telephones, and other useful inventions by Katie Danes. Chapter 1. The story of toilet. Long ago, people didn't even have houses, so building a toilet was the last thing on their minds. They roamed the forest, hunting animals, gathering berries, and squatting behind the tree. Then they learned to farm the land and made themselves homes to live in. Some built a toilet in the yard, but it was only a hole in the ground. When the hole filled up, they simply covered it with mud and dug another. This worked fine until they ran out of space. The ancient Romans had a much better idea of public toilets. They placed a long stone slab with holes over a deep trench. Then they decorated the toilet room with marble and mosaics. Going to the toilet became a great way to meet people. Romans sat in a row, chatting about politics and plays. Below them, water flowed through the trench and washed everything away. At Roman banquets, rich guests didn't even have to leave the room. They simply asked a slave to bring in a silver pot and filled it there and then. In later time, people were more shy about these things. Lords and ladies preferred to go alone using fancy cushioned toilet boxes, often hidden behind the curtain. These were a lot more comfortable though. Someone had to empty them. But the pot had to be emptied, and the easiest way was out of a window. Unlucky passers-by got a yucky surprise. With nowhere for the waste to drain away, the smell on the street was disgusting. It's a wonder anyone ever went shopping. Kings and queens had to introduce toilet law. I forbid you from dumping filth in rivers or on streets, Edward III announced to the people of London. Where else can it go? The problem was finally solved by laying pipes and drains underground. Toilet filth could now glide away under the street, not over it. Of course, when something got stuck, the mess was awful. In 1596, Sir John Harrington, godson of Queen Elizabeth I, had a brain wave. I'll invent a toilet that flushes, a royal flush. Making the flush work properly took ages. In fact, most people didn't have a flush for another 200 years. Many plumbers worked hard to improve toilet design, including a man named Thomas Crapper. He set up his own Crapper plumbing shops in London and took charge of the royal toilet. By 1880, the toilet had already arrived. Since then, only the shapes and decorations have changed. Some are fitted into the wall. Others are made to look like thrones. Space toilets even have bars to stop you from floating away. Today, we take toilets for granted, but spend a year in the woods and you will soon learn how things were for our ancestors. No tea for me, thanks, I'm bursting. Chapter 2, Telephones. Alexander Graham Bell was a boy with a mission while his father taught deaf people how to talk. Alexander wanted to find out how words travel. His mother was deaf, but young Alexander found a way to make her hear. If he talked with his lips pressed against her forehead, she could feel his words and understand it. When Bell grew up, he got a job teaching deaf people to speak. In his spare time, he loved to experiment with sound. One day, he played a chord on a piano and heard the exact notes echo on a piano next door. The notes can travel through the air, he realized. His mind buzzed with ideas. If all sounds could travel, perhaps he could send speech from one place to another. Wouldn't that be amazing? In those days, 150 years ago, the quickest way to send messages of long distances was by telegraph. A message was tapped at one end of an electric wire and finally received at the other. The tapping code had been invented by an American professor, Samuel Morse. But changing messages in and out of code took forever. Bell thought long and hard about telegraph wires and speech. One day he jumped up in excitement. I'll turn speech into an electric current, he thought. Then he can travel far down the telegraph wire. I've got it. In 1876, with the help of Thomas Watson, an electrical engineer, he invented a mouthpiece and an earpiece. They looked exactly the same and were joined together by an electric wire. When I speak into the mouthpiece, a metal flap will move, said Bell. My words will travel down the wire as an electric current. Then the flap on the earpiece will move, added Watson, and I'll be able to hear you. They quickly put the third theory to the test. Watson sat alone, holding the earpiece. Suddenly, Bell's voice boomed out. Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you. And so the life of the phone began. In 1877, Bell set off through North America and Europe to promote his new invention. How modern, thought Queen Victoria, immediately ordering one for her palace. Ted John Brown to set up the horses. The first phones needed operators to connect people. Number please, said an operator. When someone lifted a receiver, once the operator had linked two telephone lines together, a conversation could begin. Number please. By the late 1890s, automatic switchboards had been invented and lots of operators were out of job. Within 10 years, everyone wanted a phone. Early phones had a handle. You turned as you listened. Then there were boxes that people spoke into, a speaker that shaped like a candlestick, and a cradle phone. Today, millions of people own mobiles. A phone with no wire would have really impressed Alexander Bell, especially one that can send pictures too. I'm on the train. He's on a train. Chapter 3, Frozen Food. It was 1939 an American named Clarence Birdseye was trading fur in northern Canada. How can anyone live in this icy place, he wondered. A local man offered to show him around. Dressed in a thick fur coat, Birdseye joined the huddle of fishermen around 3 holes in the ice. Everyone was dangling a line into the chilly water. This isn't my idea of fun. With a sudden tug, one of the men yanked out a fish. It flipped in the air and froze before landing on the ice with a clunk. Is that tonight's supper? Asked the Birdseye. No way, replied the fisherman. We have already got enough fish to last a month. Birdseye was amazed. Where he came from, fish went rotten and smelly within a day. Did frozen fish really keep fresh? That evening at supper, he tasted the answer. This is delicious. Thanks, I caught it last Christmas. Birdseye's brain started working overtime. At home, people would pay good money for frozen food, he thought. Back in America, he invented a quick freeze machine and started the world's first frozen food company, Birdseye. Back in America. Chapter 4, Sarconets. John Brody was crazy about soccer. Every Saturday, he sat in the stadium cheering as his team won, lost or drew. At one match, Brody and his friends watched their top striker kick the ball between the goal posts. Hooray, they cheered, but the referee shook his head. He didn't think a goal had been scored. For the rest of the match, Brody sat sulking. Then he had an idea. I'll design a net to go behind the post, he thought. It'll trap the ball and prove there's been a goal. The first soccer goal net was used in January 1891. Since then, soccer fans everywhere have had to find other reasons to grumble about the referee. Chapter 5 Safety Razors. King Camp Gillette was trying to shave on a steam train. Despite his grand name, he was only a salesman going to a meeting. As the train jerked forward, he cut his chin. Ouch! He cried, looking at a drop of blood on his cutthroat razor. There must be a safer way to shave. At the meeting, Gillette said, dabbing his chin with a blood-spotted handkerchief. The company president was making a long, boring speech. Toothbrushes are big business because they always need replacing, he said. We must sell more products that wear out quickly. Years later, Gillette stood in front of his mirror, making a face. He had bought a new kind of razor, but already the blade was blunt. I spent my life sharpening blades, he thought. Then it came to him. The invention that would change his life. I'll make a razor with a safe, removable blade, he cried. When it goes blunt, you can throw it away and buy another. No one will bother sharpening anymore. They will just keep coming back for new blades. This is the future of shaving. And they did. Other useful invention before the wheel was invented 5,500 years ago. Carrying things and going places took ages. If it wasn't for Stanislaw Budry, we'd still be waiting for the bus. He started the first bus service in 1827 to take people to his bath outside Paris. Until 1850, no one had a refrigerator. Without fridges today, the food we keep would smell awful. In 1938, Ladislaw Biro was fed up with ink pens that smudged. So he invented a pen with a quick-drying ink and called it a Biro. When people started exploring space, it led to even more exciting invention. Have you noticed the barcodes at supermarket? They were first used to label the millions of parts that make up a spacecraft. The material used in firefighter suits and the flexible folds on ski boots were originally designed for astronauts. The first smoke detector was made for a space station. Now most homes have one too. The end.